Gulliver in Lilliput, narrated by Nesreen Mrayat. Chapter 1. I am Lemuel Gulliver, a doctor by profession. I was born in Nottinghamshire, and I grew up there as well. When I was 14 years old, my father sent me to Emmanuel College, Cambridge, to study medicine. During that time, I learned navigation as well. Later I took apprenticeship under Mr. James Bates, famous surgeon of London. On his recommendation, I was appointed a surgeon in a ship called the Swallow, after I had completed my education. During this time, I got the opportunity to travel to Europe and other places for quite some time. When I returned to London, I started practicing medicine and also got married. Life went on smoothly until the death of Mr. Bates, who had supported me in my practice. After his death, my practice began to lose ground, so I decided to go on voyage to earn money. I worked as a surgeon in 2 ships, and we sailed for 6 years. After this, I got a profitable offer from William Pritchard, captain of ship Antelope, who was making a voyage to the South Sea. In the beginning, the journey was prosperous, but one day the ship was caught in a terrible storm and was drowned. Chapter 2. 6 of us managed to escape in a boat, but I don't know what became of the others. Soon the boat overturned too. I struggled through the waves and reached land, where I lost my consciousness. When I woke up, it was afternoon. I tried to rise, but I could not move. I realized that my arms, legs, and hair were strongly fastened to the ground. Just then I felt something moving up my leg. With great difficulty I tried to see what it was. There I saw a man barely 6 inches tall. He was followed by several others of his kind. They all were carrying bows and arrows, which were aimed at me. I was shocked and cried so loud that all the tiny creatures ran back in fright. However, they soon returned. I lay in great uneasiness till I broke some strings and pulled out some of the pigs. The next instant, hundreds of arrows pricked me all over my body. So I thought that it was better to lie still. A little later, a stage was erected, and a man of distinguished rank stood on it. He talked to me in a strange language. Lilliput was all that I could understand. As I was hungry, I gestured to them to give me food. They brought me barrels of wine and baskets full of food. Later I learned that the name of the strange kingdom was Lilliput. After my meal, a tiny man mounted my right leg and walked up to my face. He began to speak to me. As he spoke, he pointed towards their capital city. I understood that he wanted me to go to the capital city, Mildendo. A little later, a few tiny men came and dabbed my face with sweet-smelling ointment. Soon I fell asleep, as the ointment contained a sleeping potion. When I woke up, we had already reached their capital city. A huge vehicle was made to carry me. Chapter 3. A huge crowd had gathered near the temple to see me. The emperor, too, stood in a distant tower with his ministers, observing me. I was finally allowed to stand up and walk about, though thick chains were fastened to my legs. After some time the emperor went away, and I was left with a group of soldiers and a huge crowd. As I sat on the ground, few little men shot arrows at me. One of these arrows narrowly missed my left eye. At once the guards bound them and brought them before me, but instead of harming them, I took out my knife and cut their bonds. Then I set them down. Chapter 4. This incident created a good impression in the minds of the emperor and the Lilliputians. A few days later, the emperor ordered his officers to examine me, to see if I was carrying any weapons. I cooperated completely in the task. My behavior again put me in a good light in the mind of the emperor. Meanwhile, every day I used to send a petition to the emperor, asking him to set me free. At last he granted my liberty, and my chains were removed. But I was given a set of rules regarding my conduct, which I was expected to follow. Chapter 5. One morning, Relt Russell, the principal secretary of private affairs, came to meet me at the temple. He taught me a lot about the kingdom of Lilliput. I learned that an empire called Blefoscu was in constant war with Lilliput. The island of Blefoscu has gathered a huge fleet and is preparing to attack us. The emperor has sent me to inform ye about the terrible trouble Lilliput is in, said Russell. Tell the emperor that I am ready to lay down my life for the safety of Lilliput, I assured him. Chapter 6. The next day I told the emperor about the plan I had devised to seize the Blefoscudian fleet, which lay at the harbour ready to sail. I'll need strong cables to hold the ships, I told the emperor. I was provided with thick cables. I joined 3 cables together to make them stronger, and then fixed hooks to each cable. Thus armed, I went towards the enemy fleet, which lay at anchor in the harbour of Blefoscu. When the Blefoscudians saw me coming toward their harbour, they were frightened. At once they left their ships and swam back to the shore. I fastened the hooks to each of the ships and started pulling them towards the Lilliputians' shore. Just then thousands of arrows rained on me. I quickly put on my spectacles to protect my eyes, and continued to pull the fleets of ships. The enemy cried in horror and despair. Soon I reached the shore of Lilliput, and said in loud voice, "Long live the Emperor of Lilliput!" The emperor and the entire court were extremely pleased with me. I was at once honoured with the highest title of honour, Nardak. Chapter 7. However, the Emperor of Lilliput was not satisfied. He wished that I should bring the remaining enemy ships along with their occupants to Lilliput as well. "I will not bring the free and brave people of Blefoscu into slavery, your Majesty," I said firmly. The emperor felt offended when I refused to fulfill his wish. A few days later, I realized that, due to this incident, made some of the ministers conspire against me. One day, some ambassadors of the Blefoscan king came to Lilliput with a peace treaty. They also met me before leaving and invited me to visit Blefoscu. I decided to visit Blefoscu once before I left for my country. So I requested the Emperor of Lilliput to allow me to visit Blefoscu. "All right, you may go," he replied coldly. One night, a minister of high rank came to meet me at the temple in secret. He informed me that I was convicted of treason and that I would be severely punished. "For all the favors that you have done to me, I thought that I should inform you about this unfortunate event. Do what you think is right." Saying this, he left, sad and nervous at the sudden reversal of fortune. The next morning, I started towards Blefoscu without any waste of time. Chapter 8. I waded through the shallow water and arrived at the royal port of Blefoscu, where the Blefoscudians awaited my arrival. I was warmly received by the king of Blefoscu. 3 days after my arrival, I was walking along the coast when I saw an upturned boat in the sea. I managed to bring it to the harbor of Blefoscu. I went to the king and at once requested, "Your Majesty, please grant me permission to return to my native country. I have found a boat." He readily gave me his consent. I also kept sufficient food and drinks in the boat, which would help me survive a few days. When all the preparations were complete, I set sail from the harbor of Blefoscu. By the next afternoon, to my great fortune, I saw an English ship. I signaled it and soon I was on board. How happy I was to be back in my beloved country. What joy I felt when I met my family after so long. But all this was short-lived. My desire to sail was awakened again after some time. So, after securing my family's future, I went on board a merchant ship bound for India and had many new adventures. The end. If you would like me to read you more stories, please subscribe to the channel, like and share the video.